during the early years of cloud, the focus was on infrastructure, and the organization looked to move some of their on-prem infrastructure to cloud, purely for reasons of cost benefit. So with the advent of hybrid cloud, the utility abstractions kind of extended to platform and software levels. And we saw various forms of PaaS as well as SaaS that was emerging. So there was a lot of benefits that were coming across with respect to scalability, availability, and resiliency out of this particular evolution. They could not move more than 20% of their workload, and essentially that peripheral applications moved to cloud. So the number of applications that moved to cloud is even less in a financial services sector organization. The reason we feel why this is a phenomenon is because most of the public cloud were not meeting the necessary security and controls that the organization requires. So there are highly regulated workloads that require security frameworks as prescribed by both the institution as well as the regulatory authorities. So the control functions were not there present in these clouds to ensure the compliance to regulatory requirements. You might have heard about the IBM's first financial services cloud, right? And the scenario is changing, particularly in the post-COVID era, right? We have a public cloud that provide both preventive as well as compensatory controls for financial services and regulatory workloads, right? So this is a multi-architecture support that provides automated security, leveraging the industry's highest levels of encryption, certification, and all the associated requirements, right? So to help with all of these control requirements for the platform, we collaborated with some of our key customers to really develop this and make it to a practice. The adoption of cloud is accelerating irrespective of the segment that you are in, whether you are in the financial services sector or otherwise. The barriers that were preventing many of these customers to move on to cloud has been broken, and therefore they are able to more freely move towards the public cloud. From a business perspective, the notion of how the presence in cloud, how it provides the cost benefits is always been there. Now we are going ahead in terms of really providing seeing some of the really key benefits associated with faster turnaround time. How do I provide more modular services very quickly, personalized services to customer, combining the need for artificial intelligence to create hyper-personalization services. All of this is coming together. ISVs ranging from core banking solutions to others that are dealing with systems of engagement, systems of experience, they have all successfully ported their applications onto IBM FSS Cloud already. So earlier during the year, you might have heard about a company, Intellect. They announced the availability of iTurmeric, the financial cloud. It is a future-ready, cloud-ready, API-first, microservices-based platform on IBM FSS Cloud. Again, earlier during the year, we achieved a significant milestone in IBM's collaboration with Bank of America with the availability of IBM's Cloud Policy Framework for Financial Services. What this does is it establishes a new generation of cloud for enterprises with a common operational criteria and kind of streamlined compliance controls. Probably unique to financial services industry as such, right? This industry being fairly sensitive to restricted workloads or regulated workloads, they are very there is a heightened awareness to cybersecurity. So the notion of cybersecurity is generally assumed to be anchored around an outside-in approach, right? So generally we look at outside-in threats and start really looking at it, how to address many of the threats that are coming in from outside. However, in terms of challenges, there are many other nuances that one would need to consider when getting onto a public cloud, right? So this includes, say, monitoring and security to until the microchip level. highest level of encryption and certification that is needed for running the regulated workload, so that your risk posture is always completely in compliant with whatever the regulatory authorities demand. Robust isolation options with data protection, so that there is no noisy neighbor syndrome or even data-related issues that we need to worry about. Data immutability with hyperprotect services. And it's not only at the data level, or you could think of at the middleware, databases, even application level. A very strong system in place that allows you to perform risk analysis, security management and monitoring. And all of these things are typically the challenges that any financial institution would look for to be addressed as they get onto a public cloud. I will take the example of Bank of America. Generally, banks are very cautious about public cloud and would prefer to focus on modernizing their private environment. And this has been the approach for Bank of America as well. In fact, their private cloud that was all set up in on-prem in their own premise is one of the largest, larger than some of the public clouds that we know. And with all kinds of modern mechanisms, tools, methodologies that went in. And when they have really spent over 5 years and above trying to move their workforce, their entire workloads to public cloud, but ended up moving only a handful of peripheral applications to public cloud, then they started really realizing that this is not a journey. When they started moving to public cloud, the FSS cloud, they have started to seeing turnaround times that is 80% better than what it was in the on-prem setup, right? So that is one thing. Second thing I want to talk about is banks' concerns, particularly with Bank of America, concerns around a shared responsibility model, right? Because you already have a situation. Public cloud providers enable powerful security tools, but they do not provide proper training and to ensure that the controls are put in place in a consistent manner so that they can adopt it across the organization. Many of the banks do enormous reputational and regulatory risk. This was one of the main reasons why banks such as Bank of America did not take that journey in full haul. So, first order of business for us is to make sure this skepticism is removed. And that's what we did with consistent security controls in public cloud and the necessary compliance mechanisms, very, very similar to what they would expect in an on-prem setup for both their homegrown applications as well as the ISVs that they have. Right? We started off, the immediate job was to really start with the private cloud setup that Bank of America had. And with the hybrid platform set up there using OpenShift, Red Hat OpenShift, and then kind of extend it to public cloud. So that is the tactic that we followed.